deployed the highly efficient system for preventive treatment and diagnosis. We are applying everything we have. And I address you, nurses, doctors, healthcare professionals working at hospitals, emergency units, and scientists as well. You are on the front line today. And I would like to thank every one of you for your committed and dedicated work. And I urge everyone to follow strictly the suggested regulations and ways of protecting yourself. A lot depends on them. Especially so it is true for the high-risk groups, the elderly population, and people with chronic diseases. For them and for every other citizen, it is of primary concern today to lower the risks as much as possible. Of course, we cannot but omit the question of the amendments vote. We have established that it will take place on the 22nd of April. You know how serious I am about this vote. And I will, of course, ask you to come and cast your votes, express your opinion on this critical issue for our country, for our society. However, as I said before, our absolute priority is the health of our people, their safety. That is why I believe that we need to postpone the vote. We will assess the situation in the regions of Russia, and based on professional expertise of our doctors and scientists, we will make the decision when to have that vote on the amendments to the Constitution. Right now, it is important to prevent fast spread of the disease. That is why I'm announcing the next week as the week that will not see anyone working, and everyone will have their salaries as due. So, up to April the 5th, no one will be working. Of course, all the critical services, including medical institutions, pharmacies, stores, banking institutions, transportation institutions, as well as government and municipal authorities will continue working. Again, that will be a 1 week free of work. That is what we are doing to stop the disease from spreading. I call upon everyone in Russia. Let's not work hoping, fingers crossed, that the situation will resolve itself. Let's not think that it will never go as far as you. No, it can affect you. It can affect everyone. We see what is happening in the world, in Europe. That can be our future if we do not act. We need to follow every recommendation out there. We need to care about ourselves, about our relatives and families. Let's be disciplined. Let's be responsible. Believe me, the safest way is to stay at home. On a separate note, I would like to dwell on the current social and economic situation. We need to apply more efforts to ensure social guarantees for the people, so that people will not lose their income, will not lose their jobs. We need to support small and medium-sized companies, because millions of people are employed in that sector. In that context, I am announcing a number of measures to take place. First, all social benefits for people that are expected to be given in the next 6 months will be prolonged automatically. You will not need to present any additional documents. You will not need to attend any institutions. And let me give you an example. If you are entitled to discounts on utilities, you will not need to confirm your current income to get that discount. Also, the benefit payments to the veterans of war and labor, 75,000 and 55,000 rubles, are to be delivered before the holidays which are due in May. We will also support families with children. In the next 3 months, starting with April, we will be paying to every family who are entitled to maternity capital additional 5,000 rubles per month for every child younger than 3 years included. That kind of support will be important for the families whose children are not going to kindergartens today or nurseries. For families where parents are currently on medical leave or on vacation to care for their children. As for additional benefits for the children between 3 and 7, I instructed the government to accelerate all the necessary work to make that happen, so that the people would not get these payments in July, but in June, already in June, these payments will be given to the families. I also call upon the governments to act faster so that the information will be circulated in an expedient manner. Thirdly, we need to support those who are on medical leave or who have lost their jobs. Medical leaves are being calculated in regard to the salary and work experience. That is why some people do not get a lot of money when on medical leave. This is unfair. My suggestion is as follows: to install a norm, a quota for these salaries to be paid for those on medical leave. They should not be less than 1 minimum wage. That will be in force and will last until the end of the year. Russia's economy, as well as economies of other countries, are experiencing a lot of negative pressure because of the epidemic. And as I said, we need to support those who might be affected, who might lose their jobs. Today, except for some categories of people, the maximum unemployment benefits are capped at 8,000 rubles per month. I say we increase that to the minimum wage, 12,000 rubles, 12,130 rubles per month. Fourthly, loans and credits is another zone of risk. Of course, income is shrinking and it's hard to pay your debt. Sometimes impossible to pay your debts. That is why we need to introduce zero loan policy. If a person experiences a difficult situation, his or her income has decreased by more than 30%, that person should be entitled to a pause in credit payments so that the loan would be prolonged without any punishment, any additional interests. And I call upon banks to work harder to ensure that small companies, entrepreneurs and individuals can rely on these guarantees. When people have no income, they should not feel that they are in a deadlock. They should not be taken hostage to loans. I call upon the government and the parliament to speed up their work on introducing these changes to the legislation. Small and medium-sized companies, micro companies, especially if they work in the field of services, are today confronted by a number of difficulties. Orders are shrinking, their incomes, their revenues are going down. We need to reach out to these companies so that they will continue working sustainably and will not have to fire anyone. It is our primary task, and I call upon every employer in the country. We need to ensure stability on the labor market. There should be no increase in unemployment. The government is ready to help businesses to make that happen. Those sectors, those industries which are affected the most by this troublesome epidemic, we will apply the following measures. Small and medium-sized companies will be giving an opportunity to pay their taxes later, including VAT. They will pay after 6 months. As for micro companies, it's true for them too, and also they will not need to pay insurance fees for the same amount of time. As for loans, small and medium-sized companies and micro companies who are finding themselves in the pinch will be able to pay their loans further on in time, after a 6-month period. I call upon the government and the central bank to adopt additional measures to ensure that crediting and loan issuance is continued on a sustainable basis. That can be done through subsidies and governmental guarantees. Companies and factories which are now in a difficult situation should be protected from bankruptcy. That is why for a period of 6 months, we're introducing a moratorium on bankruptcy applications, as well as measures related to collecting the debts from such companies. That is going to help those who are most affected. Also, the government is instructed to monitor the situation 24/7, and when needed, these measures can be expanded, and the number of the category of companies involved can also be changed and expanded. We need to do our best to support people's income, especially those people working at small and medium-sized companies. These companies need to have additional resources to be resilient, and for that we need to lower the insurance fees for them down to 15%. That will be applied to salaries which are higher than the minimum wage level. If the salary is at the level of the minimum wage or lower than that, then it will be the same, 30%. And again, it's not for a couple of months. It's not an anti-crisis measure. That's a long-term plan. This way, we'll be creating additional stimulus to the companies to increase salaries of their employees. So much for insurance premiums. Now, another measure. All dividends and all interest going to offshores and abroad of Russia should be subjected to fair taxes, and this is why today many of the schemes existing to optimize money flows are facing the tax of 2% only, while people have to pay 13% of income tax. That is a huge disparity. This is unfair. That is why those who would like to take their money, their dividends outside of Russia to put on foreign accounts, will be introducing a new tax of 15%. That will require, of course, certain amendments to the double taxation agreements that we have with some countries. And the government is to work this out. If our foreign partners refuse to accept these terms, then Russia will annul these agreements unilaterally. And we'll start with those countries who see the majority of resources taken out from Russia, because that is a blow to our economy. Secondly, in many countries of the world, if we take people and their money, their investments in stocks and shares, they are paying taxes for them. We don't have such a tax, and that is why I suggest that the people whose investments are bigger than 1 million rubles should be paying a tax on the money they get from it at the level of 13%. Not the deposit, not the investment, but the money they get from it, their interests. Now, I'd like to stress that this is going to be applied only to 1% of bank clients, while all the other terms and conditions will remain at their current level. They are one of the most profitable today, if we compare them to any other country in the world. These measures are hard, but we need to do that. All the additional revenues that the budget gets from these two measures will be directed at financing families with children, families who lost their jobs, or those who are on medical leave. Citizens of Russia, all the measures which are being taken and that will be taken in the future will work. They will be effective if we work together, if we understand all the complexity of the situation, if the government, the people will work shoulder to shoulder. If we do our best, if we do everything within our power, then we will do it. We need to be responsible for ourselves, for our families, for those who need our help, our support. Largely, that is the solidarity that we need, and the society is defined by that solidarity, by that readiness to come to others' help. That is how we respond to these challenges. Thank you for your attention.